So, hello everyone, it's really good to be here. My name is Aryavandana, that is my ordained name. I was ordained in 2024 in the Spanish mountains into the Triratna Buddhist order movement. And my birth name is Caroline Smith. So, the title of this is called Silent Underground, a 12-hour meditation with pause on the circle line. We start with pause. When you insert a pause into a situation where a pause is not expected, it creates a number of things. It creates anticipation, perhaps anxiety, perhaps relief or curiosity. Defying social expectations through the silence and stillness of a pause ruptures or can rupture the everyday. On December the 1st, last year, I underwent a 12-hour meditation on London Underground's Circle Line from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. This meditation was a fundraiser for a new Buddhist retreat centre in Ware. I've been practicing for 17 years. Silent Underground, the name of the project, was also a continuation of my artistic practice that engages with stillness and silence in public settings, such as, over the years, a cafe and theatre in South London, Covent Garden busy passageways, and outside Westminster Council offices where we were protesting against a hike in rent. In December, I wanted to make an intervention into what I experience as the numbing monotony of public transport travel. Commuting on the tube is a journey many of us do twice a day, 5 days a week, crammed into carriages, noses to phones. I wanted to explore what might change, not just for me, the practitioner, but for those in proximity. Members of the East London Buddhist Centre and Cambridge Buddhist Centre joined me for part of the journey, either to meditate alongside in the carriage or to bear witness to their own subjective experience on what might be unfolding. Do we, the tube farers, collectively wake up from autopilot? Might this cultivated awareness over 12 hours offer creative possibilities? Pause. The pause, says Buddhist monk and my teacher Sangharakshita, the pause makes beautiful the music of our lives. It is the empty spaces which give us richness and significance, and it is the stillness which makes them truly useful. There were many pauses that I experienced during that day, from the practical to the symbolic. Firstly, I had to pause practically, as the circle line is not a circle, but stops at Edgware, where then I would disembark and climb the stairs, across the walkway and down the other stairs and wait for a train. I'd begin to meditate again. Each cycle lasted about 50 minutes. I did the cycle about 14 times. Then there was the pause in meditation where I'd come to the surface of my experience, open my eyes, see my surroundings and those who were in proximity to me. During the commuter hours, I experienced a tightness and contraction of bodies. At other hours, people felt distant. It was as if I was breathing in and breathing out the collective edges of people's bodies expanding and subsiding with each in-breath and out-breath. I had no idea of time, and snippets of conversation flowed in and out. The boundary between my inner world and outer experience became ever thinner. Then there's the symbolism of holding this collective pause with nowhere to go, round and round. How many of us remember a tube journey? On the Circle Line, for example, the noise between Bethnal Green and Bank is absolutely excruciating. On the Victoria Line, the passageway between seats is very narrow. We live in very loud times. Green spaces are diminishing. Health experts agree that any sound above 85 decibels can damage hearing. Parts of the Victoria Line in London reach over 90 decibels, at times peaking at 112 decibels. Chronic noise pollution has also impacted our bodies in a concerning way. We are becoming physiologically less tolerant to withstand any quiet. Silent space is increasingly associated then with what is unfamiliar and deeply uncomfortable. Sedatophobia, fear of silence or quiet surroundings, is now a growing phenomenon. So rather than accepting our unsatisfactoriness, we distract, divert, deviate. We curate our preferred experience of the day with music, podcast, and WhatsApp. But as Halil the Elder writes, and one of the questions of this event is asking, if we can't be in the now, then when? Pause. There is an age-old argument that meditation is all well and good, but the journey is very inner and it doesn't actually do anything. For our fraught times, we need to do things now and with urgency. It makes for a compelling case then, if not now, then when? Thich Nhat Hanh's book, Being Peace, contains one of his most well-known teachings. He wrote of the necessity to embody peace now, rather than acknowledge peace as some future condition brought about by action. In other words, we are now, not we are in the future. This is recently exemplified by the Buddhist monks who began their silent walk of peace on the 26th of October 2025. They walked from Texas to Washington, D.C. Thich Nhat Hanh writes that a quality of peaceful presence can enable change rather than the anxiety of future-forward doing it, because doing can often evict us from being here now. The doing mind is planning, preparing for the future, and probably along with that, bringing along all our well-rehearsed stories about how things are. Pause. So the sociologist Erving Goffman's presentation of the self in everyday life argued that people perform different selves according to social convention. When this is disrupted, perhaps the space then opens for others through an unspoken agreement to perform other selves, or at least step away from convention. On the underground that day, people told me that the atmosphere did shift. People in the vicinity were not on their mobile phones, seemed to occupy a different kind of space. From my perspective, there seemed to be a shift in what I usually experience on the tube. There was a kind of subtlety, openness. expressed through friendliness and warmth. And I felt that it got closer to a principle of impermanence, that things do change, we change, and through that doorway of impermanence arose fragility and beauty. People seemed more beautiful to me that day. At the end, I'd finished the meditation, and I scuffed, from all that mindfulness, I scuffed a man's foot when I sat down. And I apologized. And he asked how I was, and I responded that I felt very well. And I asked him how he was, and he responded that he was all right. And to my delight, everyone then, down that line, that seated line, started checking in with how the day was. The December the 1st sit meditation did stir the imaginations of many people. It raised, and it has raised just shy of £5,000 for this new retreat centre. And to my surprise, it went viral on the social media pages of BBC London and transferred over to BBC National News, where it reached over 1 million views. I want to leave you now with an impression from a member of the Sangha, from the East London Sangha, who joined during the morning. And he wrote to me afterwards and said, "The underground used to be a place that caused me a lot of anxiety in the past. There were a few years where I basically didn't use it at all. That story didn't occur to me until later today, that so much has changed for me since I've started working on my mind. I experience the world in such a different and more positive way. Your action today brought out such a strength and energy in me. I feel that I can now go back on the tube with some confidence." This is interesting to me because it's about how a very simple pause helped him become aware that his story, this view that he had, was in fact old and no longer served him. I wonder how many of us now live from an out-of-date story, because the pause stops us from being here now. Thank you.